Language is one of the most powerful tools ever created by the human brain. It shapes our relationships, our careers, and even how we see ourselves. Every promise we make, every dream we describe, and every emotion we express, they all begin with one part of speech, the verb. Without verbs, ideas stand still. Hope gives life to vision. Lead turns thoughts into influence. Change transforms the world. Every time you speak, write, or even think in English, you are unconsciously choosing verbs. And those choices decide whether your message moves people or falls flat. Now, here's what's fascinating. Neuroscientists have found that your brain doesn't just understand verbs, it feels them. When you hear the word run, your motor cortex lights up as if you were actually moving. That's why verbs are not just grammar points, they are triggers of experience and emotion. Today, let's look deeper into how verbs work. Not through memorization, but through understanding. There are three main categories of verbs that govern how English expresses thought and feeling: action verbs, linking verbs, and helping verbs. By the end of this lesson, you'll not only recognize them, you'll know how to use them with power, precision, and confidence. Let's begin with the heartbeat of every sentence. Action verbs. Transitive verb. An action verb with a direct object is transitive. The object receives the action of the verb. The rescuer dug the earth. Ask, dug what? The earth. Intransitive verb. An intransitive verb has two characteristics. First, it is an action verb expressing a doable activity like arrive, go, lie, sit, sneeze, etc. Second, unlike a transitive verb, it will not have a direct object receiving the action. The audience laughed. No direct object, it stops right there. Did you know? According to cognitive linguists at Princeton, your brain activates motor neurons when it hears action verbs. That's why when you say run, your brain feels motion. You literally think in movement. So every time you choose an action verb, you give your listener's brain a mental movie. Now let's talk about linking verbs. A linking verb does not express action. Instead, it links the subject of the sentence to a word in the predicate. For example, Kobe Bryant is a famous NBA star. The linking verb is links the subject Kobe Bryant to the noun NBA star. The Oklahoma tornado victims look miserable. The linking verb look links the subject victims to the adjective miserable. These verbs don't show action. They connect who you are to what you become. Linking verbs come in three main types. First, we have the be verbs. Second, we have the sensory verbs. And finally, we have the verbs that express condition or change. Let's go through each group one by one. 1. Be verbs. To begin with, the be verbs are the most common type. These include am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. They link the subject directly to its identity or state of being. For example, I am a teacher. Her sister is an engineer. They are my cousins. They were absent. Each of these verbs simply connects the subject to what it is. No action, just connection. Now that we've reviewed the be verbs, let's move on to our second group, the sensory verbs. These verbs help us describe how something feels, tastes, smells, sounds, or looks. The sensory verbs. Sensory verbs describe experiences through the senses, but remember, they only function as linking verbs when you can substitute them with a be verb and the sentence still makes sense. Let's look at these examples. I feel good. The soup tastes blunt. The perfume smells fragrant. Your music sounds loud. In each of these, the sensory verb links the subject to a description. Notice how we can replace feel, taste, smell, and sound with is, and the sentences still make sense. That's the key test. However, not every use of a sensory verb is linking. If the verb shows action, for example, the chef tasted the soup, that's an action verb, not linking. So, always check. If the meaning involves perception rather than physical action, it's linking. Verbs that express condition or change. Finally, let's look at the third group, the verbs that express condition or change. These include verbs like become, seem, appear, grow, turn, remain, stay, prove, and get. Again, they act as linking verbs when they connect the subject to a state or condition. Consider these examples. The plants grew tall. The audience became restless. The salad stayed fresh. The children appeared sleepy. Each verb here links the subject to a description that tells us something about its condition or transformation. So, to summarize, linking verbs can be grouped into three categories: be verbs, sensory verbs, and verbs of condition or change. They don't show action, but they are essential in describing states, identities, or experiences. Before you move on, here's a simple trick. If you can replace the verb with is, are, or was, and the sentence still makes sense, it's a linking verb. Let's talk about one of the most important parts of English grammar, the helping verb. Now, helping verbs may look small, but they are powerful because they help the main verb express time, possibility, or even attitude. In fact, there are two kinds of helping verbs: the auxiliary verbs and the modals. Auxiliary verbs. First of all, auxiliary verbs are those that help show the progressive, passive, emphatic, negative, or perfect forms of verbs. They don't stand alone. Instead, they work hand in hand with a main verb to complete its meaning. Auxiliary verbs come in three main groups: be, have, and do. Let's look at each of them. The be verbs. The first group is the be verbs: am, is, are, was, were, and will be. These are used with the present participle or past participle forms of the main verb. Examples: the lake is frozen. The car was parked by Ed. So, whenever you see am, is, are, was, or were before another verb, remember, they're not acting alone. They're helping to show a state or an ongoing or completed action. The have verbs. Next, we have the have verbs: have, has, and had. These are used with the past participle form of a verb to show something that has already been completed. Examples: I have seen her many times. She has been scolded. In other words, whenever you use have or has plus a verb ending in ed or its past participle form, you're showing completion, a connection between the past and the present. The do verbs. Finally, we have the do verbs: do, does, and did. These are special because they help form questions, negatives, or add emphasis. Only verbs in the simple present form come after them. Examples: he does not believe it. I do understand. That's emphatic. It shows certainty or stress. So these three, be, have, and do, are your core auxiliary verbs. Each plays a different role, yet they all help bring meaning and precision to your main verb. Now, before we move to modals, let's pause and notice how these verbs can act differently depending on how they're used. They can serve as action verbs, linking verbs, or helping verbs. Examples: I have substantial evidence against him. Here, have is an action verb showing possession. I have been sick since yesterday evening. In this sentence, have been acts as a linking verb, connecting the subject to a state. I have been teaching since 1980. Now it becomes a helping verb, forming a progressive verb phrase. Tina is a high school student. Is here is a linking verb, not a helper. Right now, she is being called to the principal's office. Is being functions as a helping verb, showing the passive voice. He is watching movies on television. Is again helps form the present progressive tense. The program shall be held at the auditorium tomorrow. Shall be is a helping verb combination expressing the future passive form. So, as you can see, the meaning of these verbs changes depending on whether they show action, connection, or assistance. Now, let's move on to the second type, the modals. While auxiliary verbs help form tenses, modals add meaning. They modify the main verb to show ability, possibility, permission, or obligation. Modals are always followed by the base form of a verb, and they never change form themselves. They don't take s, ed, or ing. Modal function example can show ability, possibility, or permission. I can speak French. Can I borrow your pen? could expresses past ability or polite request I could swim when I was young. Could you help me? May gives permission or expresses possibility you may leave now. It may rain later, might suggests a weaker possibility, it might snow tomorrow, shall indicates future, formal, or suggestions we shall overcome. Shall we dance? Should expresses advice, duty, or probability you should study harder. They should arrive soon, will expresses certainty or willingness, I will call you tomorrow. That will be John at the door. Would shows politeness or hypothetical situations I would travel if I had time. He would visit every summer. Must shows strong necessity or logical deduction. You must wear your ID. He must be tired. Ought to suggests moral duty or expectation. You ought to apologize. He ought to be home by now. So, while auxiliary verbs help us build structure and tense, modals help us express attitude, emotion, and intent. In short, auxiliaries shape the grammar, but modals shape the meaning. When you master action, linking, and helping verbs, you don't just learn grammar, you command clarity, persuasion, and presence. Again, to sum all up, action verbs move your sentence, linking verbs define identity, and helping verbs amplify meaning. You're not just learning grammar, you're mastering how language shapes thought. Follow Executive Coaching PH for more lessons that blend grammar, neuroscience, and influence. And if you're ready to go deeper, enroll in my Grammar Mastery course and turn clarity into confidence.